It's time for another edition of Out and About with Jamie Grout, and this time around we'll be talking about mental health. We like to address that every now and then. It's such an important part of our lives. In fact, many folks say that mental health is as important as physical health, and we'll be addressing that with Terry and Kim from Integrated Treatment Services in our podcast. And don't forget that you can also find the video version of this, what we call a shortcast, that is anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes long, on outandaboutwithjamiegrout.com and also on our YouTube channel. And of course, all of these podcasts available on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on also iHeart Podcasts too. So thank you so much for joining us. And we couldn't do this without the help from our sponsors, including Ryan's Tire and Auto on First Avenue in Newton. At Ryan's Tire and Auto, they take great pride in delivering more than just tires and vehicle maintenance. They provide an unwavering commitment to great service every time, and support to the community too, I might add. As a locally owned and operated small business, they understand the importance of building lasting relationships with their valued customers. Their team of dedicated professionals is passionate about automobiles and is committed to going the extra mile for you. They're proud to serve their community with a level of care, expertise, and dedication that only a hometown business can offer at Ryan's Tire and Auto on First Avenue, Newton. Also, Newton Clinic, summer sports are just around the corner. Make sure your child is game day ready with a sports physical at Newton Clinic. Call or text them at 641-792-2112 to schedule today and skip the last-minute scramble. And also, Wesley Life Park Center. Give them a call today at 641-791-5000. And you can feed your soul at Park Center. They have all kinds of lifestyle options, a full continuum of independent living, assisted living, short-term rehabilitation, memory support, and long-term care at Park Center, a Wesley Life community. It's time for another Out and About with Jamie Grout, and this time we're going to do another check-in on mental health, and we're with Terry and Kim from Integrated Treatment Services. Like to find out what's going on with them and their thoughts on mental health every now and then. And I was listening to the radio station I work at every morning, WHO, on the way over here, and I find out it is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Exactly.
And I'm excited to talk about that. And they said that folks who are involved in mental health say that it's all about a good work-life balance.
Yes.
So I'll throw this out to either one of you or both of you. How do you have a good work-life balance?
At 5 o'clock, you leave your work at the office.
Okay.
You can't take it home with you. You can't take the issues home with you or none of that. Or you will get burnt out so fast and you'll never want to come to work again.
Okay, but that's got to be hard to do when you feel like you have to unload.
If you've been and doing this as long as we have, there's a method to our madness.
Okay.
You have to focus on, I don't want to say distractions, but some things that you got to have some hobbies or other things that you like to do. Like for me, it's gardening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking about that before
exactly.
we started.
A minute ago, sure.
Yeah. And you like to garden.
I love to garden.
So you leave whatever you're doing here at Integrated Treatment Services here when you leave.
I have to, until I get a telephone call from a client that's in crisis, and that happens more often than not. And so you're never really off work, you know, because if a client calls, you have to talk to them.
Right.
And help them resolve whatever thing that they're going through. But Kim's got 15 grandkids and a new grandbaby on the way, so she's got a lot of things that's keeping her busy.
So the important thing is not to talk about work outside of work.
Exactly.
That's got to be hard to do.
No.
No?
No.
For him, maybe.
How about for you, Kim?
So I have a half an hour drive home.
Right.
And that helps me decompress on my way home so that I'm not ready to pounce on my husband as soon as I walk in the door.
Mm.
My husband's retired now, but he used to be a banker, so he had the same issues. We both had confidentiality standards for our professions, so we understood that even if we did talk about something that it couldn't go past our front door. So, um, but most of the time we just chose not to. We would just say had a bad day at work or had a great day at work, but try to leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think another thing is when you are in practice, uh, one of the things that you have to learn is not to take responsibility for your client's success or not success, because ultimately we are here to listen and to guide, but we can't do it for them. And so most of the time when they walk out the door, I'm on to the next client, and it's not that I don't care, but I can't stay in that space.
You can't dwell on that because
No.
you don't have time to do that.
Right. I don't have time, and that's not my purpose. My purpose is to help them move forward, but it really doesn't have anything to do with me personally, um, other than me doing a good job. But as far as whether they choose to follow my advice or not follow my advice, that's on them, really.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a couple cases where it was more difficult to leave it at home or leave it at the office, but most of the time, I'm pretty good.
Now, I wanted to ask you specifically about this, Kim, because I know Terry does not work with women. You do specifically.
Yes.
And I remember, thinking about this. This is like maybe 20, 30 years ago. Women were not as much in the workforce as what they are now. Women were secretaries or administrative assistants, as they
Right.
call it now, or nurses or teachers and things like that. But women got into the workforce, and then, they became what you would call superwomen. They were moms, they
Yes.
became executives, they did this. Women can do anything that men could do, and they
Mhm.
always could,
Right.
but acceptance was more prevalent.
Right.
So now, I don't know if you're old enough to remember the Ed Sullivan Show, but now
course.
women are like men and are like the guy that you would see on the Ed Sullivan Show that would have the plates, that would keep the plates spinning. He'd have 10 plates spinning at one time, and all these things were going on, or the juggler trying to keep all the balls in the air, the bowling pins in the air all at one time. How does anyone, or women especially in the workforce with the kids, the responsibility that's going on in the job and all the things that are happening, trying to get, from point A to point B in the clubs and all the responsibilities, how do they handle that?
It is a difficult task. I guess my counsel is, are you taking care of yourself? If you are not taking care of yourself, no one else is either.
Mm-hmm.
So there has to be time for you to have moments of quiet, uh, do things that feed you, be with people that feed you, because you're constant in this job. You're constantly giving, 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 and so if you don't have an activity or a place or people that feed you back, and then there's just the amount of rest, not only physical rest but also mental rest. So those are the things I focus on with them. You have to do this, because if you don't, no one else will, and you will just burn yourself into the ground giving to everybody else. Your jobs, running your kids here, there, and everywhere, trying to keep food on the table and snacks and all of this kind of stuff. You have to be able to rejuvenate yourself. That has to be there. The other thing is, when you are in the midst of raising young children, make sure that your friends either understand or are also in that space, because otherwise, I mean, if you have 3 young kids at home and the majority of your friends are going out partying and you're trying to do that too, that's not a good combination. That's not going to work. So try to have friends that are, if they're not in the same space that you are, as far as raising children or whatever, make sure that they at least are understanding, because you cannot do it all. You cannot act like you're 18 and have 3 children at home.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be adjustment.
And kind of bouncing off what Terry said about leaving your work at home and distractions and things like that. So making time for yourself, I would assume that mom needs distractions also, hobbies and
Right.
things like that.
Right.
Correct?
Right. So yeah,
Okay.
for a lot of women, it's exercise, going to the gym.
Mm-hmm. So Terry, for the man in the relationship, the husband-wife relationship, how can the man be supportive of mom?
He has to listen to mom and talk to mom and not at mom. And she has to know and understand that he does hear her, because she needs to be heard in situations like that. And if you got some fairly decent communication, de-escalating yourself and getting yourself back on a calm plane is doable. And it's practiced daily, every day. This is not something that's a part-time proposition. You have to practice this daily. My wife and I were together for 50 years, and we're in the same field. And we would talk to each other, but very seldom did we talk about work.
Mm,
Yeah.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
So we have discussed this earlier in podcasts, and again, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And, we talked about the stigma, unfortunately, that still is out there as far as going to see a mental health professional. And hopefully that is coming to an end. But again, either one or both of you can address this. But why is mental health as important as physical health?
Well, how can you do anything without good mental health? I mean, you can be in a wheelchair, be a quadriplegic, but if your mental health is straight, you can still do about anything. Your mental health is absolutely priority one, as far as I'm concerned. But some things that we don't address and we should address, like, for instance, the insurance factor. People that have insurance, they come, they see a therapist, they're traumatized, and, they need that mental health therapy. And the insurance companies nowadays are they just failing to reimburse. They're going back years, taking back money that they paid 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago. Mm-hmm. Small agency like mine just can't function like that. Mm-hmm. And their people, their clients, have to know that their services are getting paid for by their insurance company. We can't do this pro bono. Mm-hmm. You just can't do it. And they just went back 9 years on us and said, well, we did an audit 9 years ago and we're going to take $16,000 from you. How can I operate like that? Mm-hmm. Coming to work and saying they're going to go back 15 years next time, and you just can't function like that. And the thing about it is that there's no equity in that system. We can only resubmit after 1 year, and to remedy something that may be problematic in the paperwork. What have you? We go back 1 year and get it fixed, and then we get reimbursed. But when they go back 9 years, they're saying, the time period has expired. You can't recoup anything, and
you have to pay it back.
And you got to pay it back.
Wow.
I'll show you this letter here.
Okay.
$16,000.
$16,000. That is crazy.
$16,000. What I did?
Got it right
That's
there.
it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. $16,000. They went back 9 years.
Wow.
Then we did an audit. And the thing of it is, Jamie, the criteria 9 years ago, as far as paperwork goes, is just totally different from what it is now. Mm-hmm. So what criteria are they using to audit files that's 8, 9, and 10 years old? It's
ridiculous.
Worse than ridiculous. Mm-hmm. It's illegal. It should be.
Mm-hmm. So can you appeal this?
We're going to appeal it.
I see. Okay.
Absolutely.
But the biggest problem is that the insurance agencies do not have any oversight.
Exactly. No oversight.
The only oversight there is the legislature of Iowa. And I know that my representatives are not real happy to see my name on an email because I'm constantly, but in their defense, there are only two people. And if nobody else is
Complaining.
raising this issue, complaining, and let's face it, we have lots of things to complain about right now. So how do they discern what is the most important? This is the most important to us because it's our livelihood. But unfortunately, there's a lot of issues in the tank, and so there needs to be some kind of oversight for these insurance companies because they are ravaging not only mental health but also physical medical health.
Well, I work at WHO in the morning. I'm producer for Jeff Angelo's show and also for Emery Songer's show. And so I am at the forefront of a lot of topics that happen in the morning. And I have to give props to, I don't agree with everything that Jeff Angelo talks about, but last time there was a school shooting, he said, okay, Republican right-wing folks, this is your chance to jump on the mental health issue and how we need to support legislation and mental health and throw taxpayer dollars toward that. And silence. Nothing going toward that.
Right.
This is a way to try to address this kind of issue, for heaven's sakes. And, when the people on the left say gun control, gun control, gun control, the people on the right...
My Second Amendment rights, you're taking my rights.
Exactly. The people on the right are not saying mental health, which is their standard thing. They're saying mental health, but they're not doing anything about it. I don't mean to get political with this conversation.
Well, it's a political issue.
It is, unfortunately.
And that's what it comes down to.
It does.
And the thing is you can provide more mental health therapists. There's enough mental health therapists in Iowa. However, how are they getting paid?
No.
Right now, the insurance companies get their money, the client gets their
Therapy.
services, and the provider gets nothing.
And that's not right.
And so how many people are going to be mental health therapists if there's no guarantee they're going to get paid?
Yeah, that's right. Like Terry said, you can't just do it pro bono.
No.
Out of the kindness of your heart, you need to be able to survive.
We do some pro bono,
We
but you
do.
can't run a business doing all pro bono work.
Right.
And our constituents are primarily Medicare and Medicaid. We have a few Blue Cross Blue Shield thrown in here and there, but the majority of ours are Medicare and Medicaid. Those are government programs. The powers that be are trying to shut them all down.
And it's not
And
going to
it's
get
reflected
go.
in our payments.
Yeah.
And it's when Medicaid was privatized, that was the worst thing for providers.
Yes. When they had Magellan, we didn't have any issues getting our money reimbursed. But now, if you got your ear to the grindstone, they're talking about cutting $800 billion out of Medicaid. So you think that it's bad now trying to get reimbursed. Wait till they narrow that bottleneck there. And those MCOs, they're going to keep every dime that they could possibly get. So that's where they get their money from.
It's right.
They get their money from the state of Iowa, the way this thing is structured, that they got 3 MCOs. They give all of them $100 million, $2 billion, whatever it is.
Right.
And say, you pay the bills and the change, you keep it. So they're going to pay as little as they can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And going back 9 years and taking another $16,000, that's just horrific.
Well, if you're listening to this podcast, wherever you might be, get a hold of your legislators and see if you can try to get these things changed, because mental health is vital in our country. You hear about too many school shootings, and I think we're past the point of thoughts and prayers.
Yes.
Thoughts and prayers are all well and good, but unless something gets done in our country about this, one way or the other, then it's not going to stop.
Yeah.
Right.
It has to be clear how we can submit claims and get reimbursed. there has to definitely be a criteria there that is clear for everyone that's involved in the system, and it has to be fair for both sides. And there should not be a mechanism that you can just arbitrarily go in there and go back 9 years and take $16,000. I
Right.
mean, that's just
Right.
that something about that reeks of impropriety.
Yeah.
It absolutely does.
Totally agree.
And they're going to cut this $800 million out of Medicaid to give Elon Musk a tax break.
Right.
They need their money, you know that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And but once they do that, so many people are going to get kicked off of Medicaid.
Sure.
They're not going to have any insurance, and those that have it might not be able to utilize it because the insurance companies are not paying the providers, and the providers are not going to continue to see clients pro bono. Bottom
Sure.
line.
No, that's the way it is. Well, I'm glad this got brought up because it needs to be addressed.
Yeah,
That is
absolutely
for sure.
does.
I don't. I'm going to just sidetrack a little bit. I don't understand insurance companies because I've fought a weight problem for my entire life, and I'm on appetite suppressants right now, which has helped me lose, I think, something like 25 pounds now. But I'm on Ozempic, and it costs $200 a month for that, which is too high. And I had heard that the Biden administration was going to, especially for people on Medicare, I'm 66 now, and they were going to help cut down the cost of that. But now with the Trump administration, they're not going to do that at this point anyway. So I'm still going to be paying $200 a month for this. And I don't understand why insurance companies don't step up, because people with chronic weight problems, as you might know, have other problems,
They have
which cost
problems,
even
yes.
more money,
Yeah.
which, is going to also make insurance companies have to foot the bill for some of this stuff.
And that goes around to where we started with this, with the mental health and the physical health.
Right.
They are so intertwined. I have so many clients that when they are depressed and feel like there is no hope, then their physical health is also down.
Yeah.
You know how it is when you have a headache. If you're excited about what you're going to do, you're going to go through that headache anyway.
Right.
You're going to do what you want to do. But if life just seems like it is not worth it, that headache is going to become insurmountable. You're going to be laying in bed all day. So they're so intertwined. People can live through a lot if their mental health is good. But if it's not, then even the smallest thing becomes big.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Do either of you ever work with veterans at all? People with p.t.s.d? Suicide rate among veterans is pretty darn high.
Right, it is.
Why does it seem to be so high?
A lot of these kids go into the military at a very young age, and they've not been exposed to a lot of the things that they're getting exposed to, especially if they go into a war zone. And, the worst thing that they've ever seen was that mom getting her hand burnt on lifting the pot up,
Sure.
Mom, you hurt there. Then you get in the military, you go into a war zone, and you meet a guy, you befriend the guy, and then you look over there and his head just got blown off. That would traumatize anything and
Sure.
anybody. And they're not prepared for those type of atrocities that they see. My son did 30 years in the Navy, and he retired Master Chief, p.t.s.d. And some of the things that he saw, he went in at 18, and he used to talk to me about it. He said, I never thought I could see anything like that in my life. You're not on 427 Elm Street. They'd say, Beaver, you coming out today? That doesn't exist when you get in those situation areas like that. That's one factor that goes along with it. But
That they come home and nobody that they know understands their pain, unless it's another veteran. And so even mom and dad, even though they're very well intentioned and everybody else that they love, that loves them as well, you cannot understand the nightmares and the horror, the flashbacks that, a car backfires and you're back there.
You're reliving it again.
you cannot understand the trauma that these kids and men and women have gone through. And they try to rise above it, but so many of them can't, and they take their lives. And then the rest of us are left with, what could we have done? How could we have supported them more? And it's a very, very tough thing.
Adjustment is hard.
It's extremely hard. And you know how us Americans are. We don't want to actually think about all the crappy stuff. We just want to be happy. And life isn't like that for a lot of people. And so we are always trying to cheer people up instead of just listening.
And a good way for veterans is, as you had mentioned, is to maybe talk to other veterans.
Yeah.
I know over in Grinnell, they have what's called a Solace Center, and they get together once a month, and it is veterans talking to other veterans.
Not enough.
Not enough.
They should do that every week.
Every week.
Absolutely.
You bet. You bet. It's very important.
You got to have continuity and consistency
You bet.
if you're going to have any type of redress for that.
There you go. Before we wrap up, let's talk about dealing with the stigma of mental health. I know that you both have had to deal with that a little bit. How can we overcome that and just realize, hey, let's get past that, because it's a ridiculous stigma, and realize that it's time to address that and go see a professional about the whole thing.
I think television, Bob Newhart was a great but
Great show.
They envision therapy as something that's on television, and therapy here is very different from some other agencies, because we are very small, and so
Very eclectic.
and we don't have the institutionalism, the pristine waiting room and the television and the music in the background that makes it seem. I've had clients say it's more like coming into a home, not a nursing home, but just a regular residence with popcorn and
a comfortable
lively
place.
Conversation. Yeah. And so that takes the stigma out of it. Once they meet us and come here and feel at home, it isn't long before they are comfortable at really sharing what's going on too. So,
Okay. How can folks contact you?
well, our phone number is 641-792-0045. And
I've got an email, Terry at ITS Newton. That's Integrated Treatment Service acronym, Terry at itsnewton.com.
Okay. And on the Out and About with Jamie Grout website, you can see the business card for Integrated Treatment Services, and you can contact them that way. So thank you, folks, for again talking with us. Hopefully in another month we'll get together again. And
Always great talking to you, Jamie.
always great talking to you
Sounds
too.
good.
Yep, it's always a pleasure. Terry and Kim from Integrated Treatment Services, and you can watch the video too on the Out and About with JamieGrout.com website, and also on the YouTube channel. This podcast also sponsored by Jersey Freeze in Monroe. Stop down and say hi to Lynn Donahue and the gang at Jersey Freeze with all those tasty treats, malts, shakes, ice cream. Oh, try those freezers, including the Van and Bon freezer. Lynette Baker, Halo branded solutions. Free Classified Weekly, Westside Java Coffee Bar, and Advantage Credit Union.
Is your bank slamming its way through your finances by charging monthly fees? Blow the whistle on those foul-saving rates and bounce into Advantage Credit Union. At ACU, we'll treat you like you own the place, because you do. We offer great rates, fewer fees, and you'll actually earn interest instead of paying a fee. If you live or work in Jasper County or 18 other counties in central Iowa, you're eligible to join. Open your account today in Newton or online at acuiowa.org.
Local money, local decisions, local service, and locally owned by you. Insured by the NCUA.
Until next time, Grrr, out is out. See ya.